You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherlands calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. Okay. Greetings.
We're all here.
Greetings. Yes. Greetings, everyone. Yeah, we can see you. We can see you, my king. See you right there. Yep. Greetings to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can see the king is sitting right there, but he's not home. He's not home. He posted the other day, like, I am not going to sleep in my bed today alone, but something actually is still not happening. He's not home. I talked to Queen Matali Maponga last night. I said, "How are you enjoying the warmth from your husband?" And he said, "Queen, are you kidding me? I don't know whether this guy has been giving how many women out there in the Caribbean, whether he's going to be marrying a Brazilian, a Jamaican, a Dominican, and how many, he doesn't know." So, I mean, let me track you on this. Maybe the king is running away. Nobody knows. So maybe we are here cracking and there's some other space or something else. But anyways, I think, yeah, we are here back because we made a promise to the community. We made a promise to ourselves that Thursday was the last day we want to see you home. And Thursday, according to what I checked, according to our radar, and like I said, I reached home and the queen was sleeping alone. So we just don't know what is happening. Where are you now? Why are you there? When are you leaving from where you are? And when are we having you back home?
Well, I'm alive and I'm well, and greetings to you and all the faithful listeners around the world, and the great support that we have received during this complicated moment of experiencing other communities. And but right now I am in South America, somewhere in Sao Paulo. I got here yesterday, and I am miraculously held here for another few days. Stop. I think all things being equal, I should be proceeding home before the end of the weekend.
Today is Friday in Europe and on the continent. When you say before weekend, what's that supposed to mean?
I can't even remember what day of the week it is now. I think here it must be Friday also, isn't it?
Sure, it's Friday.
It's Friday afternoon. It's Friday afternoon at about 5:15 in the afternoon.
So you're assuring us that everything is fine, everything is good with you. You're just relaxing, or why are you there? Where are you particularly in Brazil?
You can't just be relaxing. We don't have any power and systems in our hands to guarantee anything. You can be having a ticket. The fact that you have a passport does not mean that you can travel. And the fact that you have a visa does not mean that you can enter. Even when you have a ticket on a flight, it does not mean that you can fly. It's their system is managed and controlled by those who can make decisions without consulting you, and those decisions will carry. So I can't guarantee anything to no one for nothing, because nothing is in my power except what you are told to do. And like the drama for yesterday, I mean, you have a ticket, but you are denied access into an aeroplane. What more can you say? What can you do? And this is the same Copper Airlines and LATAM Airlines that have been milking money out of us for the past 10 days. They've not even refunded, and we are still being told we cannot fly, we can't move, for reasons best known to themselves. But anyway, that's the stress, I think, over and above the issue that these things have happened to me, and I happen to have a platform and a voice, and your voices who can speak on my behalf. I sit here and I wonder and worry how many people out there who don't have access to resources and voices are languishing in prisons and victimized and terrorized, particularly on the black race. And they have no one who can speak about their demise. I think what has happened to me is actually a typical example of the pain that the African has to go through when working and walking in Europe, in America, and particularly this time, I think I've experienced the South America in her full space.
So yeah, his camera is hanging, is tripping out there. Like we see, these are classes, these are lessons. This somebody has to go through it to be able to speak about what happened. I think in African spirituality space, we know, like we say, the ancestors traveled and to find out or to see what's going on around the world, and they will definitely come back to us in due time to give us the results. So my king, you're on a journey. You are a watcher from the past into the future. Do you think this is a coincidence?
Only those who are blind, both physically and spiritually, will not see beyond the physical. But surely there is a bigger picture, a bigger revelation in the shadows of our learning that we need to understand the world, the colonial system in full operation, and what are the implications of immigration and this segregation we have been talking about for the longest of time. I think in all our conversations, be it with Professor Small or be it with other African leaders, Lumumba, and etc., I think you have been for the first time champion this narrative of the impact of immigration on Pan-Africanism and what does this monster really look like. When we are talking about the Africa that we want, sounds like a beautiful. When we talk about uniting Africans, it's a beautiful phrase again. Breaking down, very nice, very nice. But are we actually aware as to what that means in the physical terms of, if we are saying this system is terrible, it's not working, this is impeding business, this is harassing, abusing, and embarrassing the Africans. What does that mean exactly? Has any one of us among the Pan-Africanists gone out there to try, for a start, just to travel from Cape to Cairo? Just travel and see what African countries do to fellow Africans? Have we, amongst ourselves, traveled in the Caribbean? And I appreciate Wodemaya and what he has done. And fortunate enough, we hit on the same snakes within 1 week. 3 of us were in the Caribbean. Dr. Rikana Chombori, Wodemaya, and myself. Fortunate enough, my mother, Mama Arikana, is holding an American passport. She had a different treatment from the Caribbean. Wodemaya holds a Ghanaian passport, which is friendly towards Jamaica, and their policies for repatriation and neutralization of Afro-American and Caribbeans. It's at an advanced stage in Ghana, where we've seen people like Steve Harvey, Morgan Freeman, and Mali's wife, Rita Mali, and many other celebrities walking back to the Ghanaian space and receiving warm welcomes. As a result, their rating on the international immigration with the Caribbean has slightly changed, but it has not fully changed, because still with that policy, Antigua, with our beautiful, beloved woman president that I love very much, she spoke very well about reparations. She spoke very well about trade, spoke very strongly about NATO, realigning Africans with fellow Africans, and our involvement on world politics. Beautiful speech. You can Google that speech. I even made a trend on my page for 3, 4, 5 times, because I strongly believe in the message that she is bringing out there. Oh, but come back to domestic policies. Come back to the border control issues. Come back to immigration. Wodemaya himself, after having dinner with her, still suffered the same pain of the immigration that she's speaking about. So we've done enough of this talking as window dressing, table talk. But how long will it take us to keep on talking? And when are we going to convert our talking into real, practical, transformative policies? So I think you are doing very well, Mama Tata, in terms of maybe following up on this story. And I will have failed if this story is just about me and getting me home. Then if getting me home is the issue, I will be home by early in the week, say by Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, I don't know when. I will be home. But the fact that I am home, does it mean that the policies, the borders, immigration, segregation, limitations of traveling amongst the Africans will have improved or changed? That remains to be investigated. And I don't think so, because our African governments, both on mainland and on Caribbean, have not yet even started one single conference, Africa Caribbean Immigration Conference. How do we make Africa accessible to the Caribbeans, and how do we make Caribbean lands to be accessible to the Africans? I don't see the Home Affairs ministers on land and in the Caribbean, even in the near 5, 6, 10 years, organizing such a conference, because these conversations are controlled by the Western powers. So this conversation and this frustration, this inconvenience is not about me. I think we can bring this issue on the table now that the movement of Africans on the continent is restricted. Question: what do we do to change this narrative? What are we going to do to transform our methods, our routes, our flights, our immigration policies, so that Africa can be friendly to Africans, Caribbean lands can be friendly to Africans, and Africa can be friendly to the Caribbeans? This, for me, is the real conversation we must be having. Yes, I'm being frustrated. Yes, I feel like pulling off my head. screaming on top of my voice as I feel caged, watched like a dog put on a leash that I can't do this, I can't move there, get out of the line, move out of the aeroplane, jump out and go back there, passport stamp, visas applied, denied, name it. I've gone through all of it. But after I sit in my house a day or 2 or 3 days from now, what will have changed on our African, Caribbean, South American relationships? That remains to be discussed at a much more serious note. And I think this conversation is just a curtain raiser to a real big discussion that must follow. I thank you.
Thank you very much too. Yes, you. I see. I see the beginning of everything new. I see the metamorphose of a process that otherwise would have stayed like that for the next decade. I see a revelation of something really big than the physical, than the passport, than everything that we're talking about. That's just the tools. And so, you being the chosen one, like you said, how many of you were out there? Why is it happening only to you? Every other person is relocated. I mean, the CARICOM ambassador reached out to me and made some statements, and I don't want to disclose any of those statements here because we're not just talking, we're bringing them live on this space to speak. And so I'm very happy. I'll be hosting him next week Friday, and he's actually going to explain this mischievous information about you is not a problem. About you is the situation that he himself, like everyone, is like this. Yours is something else. Is not talked about, but about the case of the others, it's something, like I said, I'm not going to disclose anything. I think he will be able to explain or take questions from his people on the continent and in the diaspora as we speak. Um, you're still right there. We are not worried any longer. Like, we're not scared of anything. We know the watcher has been sent by his ancestors to test the waters.
I think there's some interruptions on the phone. I can hardly hear what you're saying. Can I log out? Can I log out and log in again? I can't hear anything. There are
Okay.
some interruptions on the line. I can't hear anything.
All right. Lock in and lock out because I see you, I hear you, but you can't hear me. Um, while he is connecting, I posted today on my timeline that Bamenda is on fire. Bamenda is on fire. I don't want to tell you where Bamenda is because if you're watching Dr. Tata right here, then you must know where Bamenda is. Okay. So we'll be talking about that shortly, and I hope to get Professor Joomaay here on the issue of ECOWAS. And yeah. So, but right now, let's finish the discussion. Is it okay now? Can you hear me?
It's okay. I just heard the last word I heard was ECOWAS. After that, the line just died on me. I did not hear what you said. I did not hear anything after that.
Yes, my king. We don't want to bother you with the continental issues. Right now, you're dealing at a different level. So when you come back on the continent, we'll be talking about that. I was just saying my next guest after you is going to be Professor Joomaay FAYE. And we will be talking on the issue of a lot of Africans and youth are saying ECOWAS has to be dissolved because of the fire that is burning in the West Africa. And so the question is either ECOWAS is standing up or it's going to be dissolved, that we don't, probably they won't need that body anymore. So Professor Joomaay would be joining me on that conversation later after you to share his perspective on how disappointed the Africans on the continent are in this block, the ECOWAS block. Do you have anything to say on?
I would like to share a word of caution that if we are not careful, hence maybe my reservation around Africa Union, ECOWAS, SADC, and all these other bodies, some of them which are very old and mature in terms of track records, history, and information. The issue that we have with these bodies is not their registration, but we have a problem with their function. and their function is controlled by their funders and secondly by their leadership. It will be easy for us to just say, let's close SADC, let's close Africa Union, let's close ECOWAS. Fine, you close it. And then what? We open up another organization. When you open that organization, who is funding that organization? Who gives direction to those organizations? Then we end up just creating new organizations, close them, open new ones, close them, open new ones. My advice to ECOWAS, we're now living in a world of information and technology, whether it is Africa Union, or it is SADC, or it is COMESA, or it is ECOWAS. We don't want to elect people in power and they disappear into Brussels. We want these organizations to open up Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts, hold conferences with local people on the ground, get the mandate of function from the grassroots, and get your itinerary and program supervised by the people that you claim to represent. So there's no use for you having an organization that is only seen in newspapers in Europe, but you are not known in the villages in Gambia, you are not known in the villages in Mashingo, you are not known in the villages in the Karoo or in Tanzania. Then who are you representing?
Absolutely.
If you walk up to the villages in Jamaica or in Antigua or in St. Anne's and St. Louis and Curacao, when you mention the word ECOWAS, what comes to the mind of a common person? So we have these beautiful elephant, white elephant organizations that are now sitting and dining with the colonizers. And they say that they are economic trade preferential zones for Africans and what. But their mandate, their strategy, their mission, their vision, and their function is not even known by the even if I can ask you what is one objective of ECOWAS, you will shock me. You have to Google it up. It does not come out of your hands as if you immediately know that ECOWAS is working on this on immigration. They are doing this when it comes to business. They are doing this when it comes to governance. They've actually have this program when it comes to poverty alleviation and etc. and development. We know nothing about them. The only thing we know is ECOWAS. The only thing we know is COMESA. The only thing we know is SADC. But where are their connections with the common people? So maybe my advice is that while you are talking to ECOWAS and many people will be shouting for their closure, yes, because they are useless. But no, they can't be useless because these are our brothers and sisters. The real bone of contention and advice from me would be stop acting powerful, stop taking pictures in China and in Brussels and in Frankfurt and in London. No, we want to see ECOWAS here on your platform, not just as a daily show. We want their page on Facebook where we can also tell them our frustration, give them words of advice, give them an agenda. Right now we have buses that are running that don't have drivers, because even the leaders of these organizations, I don't even know who is the leader of ECOWAS. I don't even know who is the Secretary General, who is the treasurer of ECOWAS. So we keep on creating new things, but don't make those things function. We want these bodies that are now in power to decentralize, to re-inform their stakeholders, to come back to grassroots, inform us who they are, what they are doing, how they are doing, when are they going to accomplish certain objectives, and carry us with them. We may agree with some of the things that they are doing, but in their silence, they have become useless. I thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very accurate and appropriate to state that, particularly if you talk to the young people, and we Pan African Daily is coming up with a very young, powerful team of youth that are actually going to do a lot of research and bring the results. And you understand that the average African, like you're saying, don't know anything about that. What is ECOWAS? or who is the president, or what's their agenda, what are they doing. Nobody has an idea on what is going on. So I think even if it is the situation of the West, like we keep saying all the time, I think the West too would also, it would be funny for a developed country to sit and dine and wine and think that you're keeping presidents or supporting them in the need of trying to build a nation or a world. What kind of dream is that? Particularly for the future.
I mean, just imagine, Dr. Tata, if they can put their house in order. ECOWAS visit South African government, address the government, address the nation. ECOWAS visits Zambia. ECOWAS visits. This for me is not even astronomical science. This simply talks about relevance. You speak to the powers that be in terms of the colonial system in Europe and in America, and you come back to report to your principals on the grassroots. You go back again to your conferences. You come back, you talk to your people. You lose nothing. To have 3, 4, 5, even a PR division of ECOWAS that runs. Why is it now, up to now, ECOWAS does not have a TV station, a proper TV station, where they can be gathering information and keeping, using internet and using media spaces to sell their vision to their principals, who are the Africans, both in diaspora and on mainland. So I can frankly say, we have an organization that does not have brains, that does not have leadership, that does not have a strategy. Yes, a big name. The only time I've heard ECOWAS is when Burkina Faso said they're going to stop sending uranium to France. Oops. Then ECOWAS appears. We're going to put you on sanctions. Oops. Where were you all along? Where were you all along? When France has been robbing this poor country for the past 25, 30, 50 years. ECOWAS was mum, quiet, like damn, no voice. But the time when an African begins to respond to colonial regimes, then our honorable president of Nigeria comes up from the corners talking of a democratic government, as if he went into power in a democratic way, comes around talking about sanctions for ECOWAS, as if ECOWAS will ever put France, Britain on sanctions. Imagine, you are in a hurry to put your own brother into sanctions. You have never spoken about Italy, Spain, Britain, or even France being put on sanctions by the same organizations that have been victimized by these colonial powers. So these are the double standards we're talking about. That if they say they are representing the people and they represent the pain of the African, then their legitimacy can only be evaluated with the way they respond both to African pain and colonial profit. But right now, they are more responding to colonial profit than they are responding to African pain. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's not new. I mean, I see comments like people trying to, Africans know exactly what is going on. And one thing that the young people are advocating for is they want to see an African that could sit down with its partners and negotiate at a win-win. That's all. And I don't think there's anything just difficult in any circumstances like that. And particularly what you said. It's but normal if I'm leading an organization, or I'm the president, I'm the whatever, or the bodies, to educate your people about what is going on. It's like just being in a balloon and just flying in the balloon somewhere. Like your people don't even have an idea what this is all about. But you see the politics of the West.
Dr. Susan, without even wasting your time, I know some people who are educated and want always to protect the system will come with guns blazing that maybe I am not aware of what's happening on the conferencing. I see small little conferences here and there, the mining endeavors, the African business, this African business. But up to now, I have not seen a united African business forum, publicly spoken. All African ministers of finance and local businesses, they are
Yes.
meeting at a conference to discuss African businesses, banking, trades, border control issues, tariffs and taxes and what. A simple agenda. And these our leaders coming together publicly. Some of our presidents, we've only seen them standing together when they are talking to the Chinese government, or they are meeting at the European or at the OAU, or they are meeting at United Nations. That's the only time where I've seen President so and so standing next to President so and so. But President so and so and President so and so are next doors, separated by a river. You will never see a picture. Tell me if you have seen a picture of the president of Zambia and the president of Malawi standing together discussing business. The president of Zambia standing with the president of Uganda together discussing border issues. The president of Rwanda and the president of Burkina Faso standing together. How can I help you, my brother? These are the kind of things. And I'm not being malicious. I'm not being malicious. I would love to see President Mnangagwa sitting with the president of Zambia, Mozambique, South Africa, Malawi, Lesotho, creating that SADC conversation together and the agenda being clear and published. There's nothing private here about presidents meeting and they say they were the closed discussions. They had closed conversations. What is so closed about you sitting as presidents discussing issues that affect us? And for once, do you even care to ask us as common people, what is it that we want you to talk about? Because you cannot represent me if you don't know what I want.
Sure.
How do you say you went for a conference to discuss bilateral international relations? And then I said, what does that mean? How does that improve my life? Yes, I hear. For example, Zimbabwe, well done to President Mnangagwa, well done to President Masisi. Hats off. May his soul rest in peace. President Genkop. I met up with him when I went to Namibia. We had a beautiful conversation. He remains one of my most favorite presidents. He agreed to meet with me. What are you doing here and what are you looking for? Honorable President, you can visit the conversation. It's there on YouTube. I'm not making a claim. He even agreed for us to record the conversation in his presence. I cannot believe you, Honorable President, that your soldiers and the soldiers of Botswana, these Khoisan people that are crossing the borders, what kind of a revolutionary leader are you? If you are in power as an African, you are killing fellow Africans. Like an old man, he shook his head from side to side. He was diplomatic about it, and he dismissed me after that. Oh, but no, he heard me. Exactly a week or 2 weeks after that, he made a call to President Masisi. They met at a secret location somewhere in Uppington at the borders there of Botswana and Namibia. And within 2 weeks, the border controls between Namibia and Botswana was lifted. And people are now free to move between countries with no need of a passport. As if it was enough. Masisi, I dropped him a message in his box. So what are you going to do with this relationship? Within a space of a month, he made a call to President Emerson Mnangagwa in Zimbabwe. And within 2 months after that, hallelujah, the border controls between Botswana and Zimbabwe were lifted up. I'm making another call to Hakainde, and I'll make another call to Ramaphosa. Say, let's convert our speech into practicality. If you are not ready to lift up the borders for immigration, lift them up for business. For a start, let trade begin to happen between countries. This will directly impact on the development of the African people, their business. And ultimately, these borders were just glorifying the colonial past. There's no way we can keep on talking about this. All we need is a decision to be made in Parliament and ECOWAS, SADC, Africa Union. Please hear me well. This does not need mathematics. It took a group of a few white men to sit in Berlin with a pencil and a piece of paper and a ruler. They drew and they cut for themselves the borders that we now have. There is no mathematics. There was no prayer, no ceremony, no ritual, no cult was done. It was just a bunch of fat, bigoted, proud mercenaries who met in Berlin to make that decision, drunk with the blood of our ancestors. What will it take you, African leaders, to find yourself a room and undo what was done? With all your police officers and your beautiful presidential escorts, beautiful hotels and conferences that you can put up together. Are you telling me, presidents, you can't just meet to destroy what the white man has put together? All of you, 54 of you, 54 presidents, cannot undo what 6 white men did. 6 white men will hold 1.4 million people in ransom. What is it that they have which we don't have? What is it that they did which we can't do? What are we afraid of which they were not afraid of?
Big question. Young people, you're listening, you're watching. And I heard the king said one time that you young people, you're not listening. I don't know what I would do with your little brains. I don't know how I'm going to bore a hole inside and put 1.4 is such a huge, significant figure. And I don't know why. I'm just convinced sometime or someday that, the remains of your ancestor, our ancestor, Excellency Mugabe, would not go unnoticed. Like, I see one day King Maponga standing at the United Nations and addressing and calling both parties, the continent and the West, to sit down, and you will be mediating. Honestly, I see this coming so soon, because I also think it is in the interest of the West to have Africans that think and want to push the agenda forward regardless of what we say. I'm very convinced that, why not president? I don't see you as president of Zimbabwe, because the new leadership that we're having now, you're president of Africa. One thing, my king, before we finish this conversation, Malema made a very keen speech in Ghana. I have it, and we would have to analyze that speech, but not in this space that we're talking about. I just want to give just a small a drop of the ice onto what you're saying. He said, "It is unfortunate because even the borders that we're talking about is like a football field that you put a goalpost, and everybody has to pass through that goalpost, whereas they could go through the entire field to get to the stadium, but somebody just put a goalpost that you have to pass through. And that goalpost is the road. And that's why the migration and the control. But you look at Africa, it's a massive piece of land, like our ancestors used to pass through the rivers, pass through the hills. Why must Africans drive through the road? Because exactly those are the boundaries of the road with which we must cross and show our passport to be able to move from A to Z. With flights, our ancestors were they were moving from one part to the other without this road. And I remember you had made a point about that. If we only would know our rivers, if only we would know the mountains. To be honest, Botswana has the highest part of the earth ends, the highest level of the equator is found in Botswana. No, not Botswana, in I was there. This city of stones, I think, But anyway, you were there and you said it yourself. You might not remember, I mean,
Oh,
because
Uganda.
yes, in Uganda, actually.
Yeah, the
So
equator.
it is the point that we have to look into all these small spaces and like, why must we really use where we have to be controlled when we have other spaces? Because as a matter of fact, those are the boundaries.
Yeah. I can't say it better than that. It takes an African politician who does not know his history, who does not appear any transformation, and whose battle for liberty is so national controlled that they only look at the liberation of their country as the biggest thing that they could have done. Whether it is and this is the syndrome, this is the ANC syndrome, this is the ZANU-PF syndrome, where you become so consumed, Frelimo syndrome, where you become in your national politics, and you forget that national politics is directly linked to international politics. How does your national politics affect the countries on your north, on your west, on your south, and on the eastern part? But in closing, I would wish to share my greatest sentiments as I step out. When I walked the lands of the Caribbean and experienced the spaces of slave trade, abuses, jails, and deaths, funerals, graveyards, and I I feel strongly that I actually harvested a fresh perspective of the pain of our ancestors. And I will not rest personally until they are buried uh, back on mainland. As to those who really wanted to go back home, we lose nothing. And we are Africans. If a relative has died in a far country and they want to be buried, and their last wish was that I want to be buried back home, we know as Africans the importance of the words of the deceased, that they must be carried forward. So we have thousands of Caribbean martyrs who died in foreign lands, whose desire was to come back home, whose desire was to be buried back home. The Caribbean governments and the African governments, the best thing they can do, it is to honor those requests and to honor those prayers. And I guarantee you, by honoring those prayers, by moving those bodies back to mainland, by moving those spirits back to mainland, the children will not find it difficult to follow and build their houses where their forefathers are buried. Maybe one reason why the Caribbeans are not coming back home is because they are now looking at the graves of their fathers and looking at the graves of their forefathers. But ceremonies must be conducted that these bodies, if need be, these spirits, if need be, these wills, if need be, these desires and prayers, if need be, can be transported on the same waters they were transported and be brought back and be buried on mainland. So I feel a huge responsibility as I listen to the old ladies telling me the prayers and the cries of their forefathers. Some women who die at the beach, you get to Bob Marley Beach, you find hundreds of altars that are put there where old people would come and put stones and look into the sea and just speak to Mama Africa and say, when am I going to see you again? When am I coming back there? And people died looking into the oceans. And I wonder how our generation will honor that. If I knew as a young person that my father or grandfather died and this was his desire, I would make it a purpose of my life to fulfill that desire. I leave those few words in the hearts of all who are listening, particularly in the Caribbean, that you cannot go to sleep at night when you know what your father and mother desired. The only thing you can do, it is to assist with us, to work with us, join us to build the Africa that we all need. And fulfilling the desires of your parents and your grandparents will be the most fulfilling thing you can do for your life. Even to spend yourself doing that is worth a while. I thank you.
Yes, but no, before you go, because this one, it is, oh, yes, we are talking about the past. And I think we had talked about that conversation here. But I want you to say one thing here, that is for the future. Because I remember one time we had this conversation on Pan African Daily TV where I insisted and said our girls that are pregnant in the diaspora, when they go to birth their children, they must take the umbilical cord of those children. I know you're hanging on but I think you can hear me because I mean, this is a conversation we will have to have anyways. Um, I know I have to kick this other one out. This one is hanging. My king, I was saying before you go, because we have Professor Joomaay is already in studio. I You will have to hear this. Our girls, because sometimes we the mothers when we speak we are a lot on the lower scale. I want you to repeat this again, just like you said. You know the wish of your fathers as you left with them, as they were dwelling with you. You know the wish of your husbands, the wives that are alive today, that in any case my husband would never have wanted to die and be buried here in the diaspora. So if anything happened consequentially that I didn't fulfill that, it is upon me and my duty to make sure that his remains go back to the continental motherland. But now, what I was saying, the king is out, it's okay, but I will still say it right here because we've been saying it, and we're going to be treating this topic under African spirituality. Now, you listen to me, our girls out here in the diaspora. If you are pregnant and you go to the hospitals and you birth your children, please ask for the umbilical cord of your children to be given to you. If you want to stay here, send them back to your parents. Because you see, the reason, if when we are here and we want to go back, because our umbilical cords were actually stored and buried either under a plantain or, I mean, in your father's compound. So, most often when we go to birth our children, we don't even understand that umbilical cord. The umbilical cord is what brings you back to your ancestors' land. I want to say it again, and I'm making it a point again. And we will be treating all this in the African spirituality classes. If you birth your child here out in the diaspora, make sure you demand the umbilical cord. Make sure it is a duty, it is the right of that child, in as much as it is your right. And then the second thing, most of us don't have wills when we're living here. Because of some reason, we think that we will not die. And that's why when we pass on, our children or our people don't even know what to do with us. And others will make those decisions on you. From today, if you know you want to return back home, even if you came through ships or whatever, make sure you're talking to your son, to your daughter, to your grandchildren, what you would want them to do when you no longer leave. Because sometimes we don't want to. Like we're always just not ready. Anything just happens, people make decisions, they don't even know what to do with you. So we are saying today, it is a call. If you want to stay here, it's okay. It's a choice. The world, as the systems say, is a political village. But if you think and you anticipate, write it down now and begin to tell your children and your grandchildren and your wife and your community, this is how I would want. Even today, even at the age of 10, 15, 20, you must not get elder before you do those things. We already know now what you want. I have elders in America that are saying, please, Dr. Susan, I don't want to be buried here. I've written their names down and whatever. When that time would arrive, and I know that this will be, we will do exactly that same process King Maponga is talking about. No wonder we begin to confuse, don't know whether we should go left or right because our umbilical cord are somewhere, where we don't even know. You flush them, you grind them, you throw them into waste. So you throw your life and you throw your foundation, and we wonder. So I think that was the conversation on that. And now I'll be bringing on stage our brother, Professor Joomaay. Professor Joomaay is right here. Thank you. Finally, you connected. Um,
Greetings.
greetings, 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 my brother. Greetings, my my elder. Greetings, my senior. Greetings, the people on the ground. The good people of Africa that are speaking and lecturing and talking about the Africa we want, looking for solutions that could be African oriented, and also passing a message to the global world that Africa is ready. The kind of people you wanted, the leaderships, the youth are speaking and saying, we are here. We're ready to learn. We're ready to work together. Now, the next topic we want to treat with Boom, would like you to to introduce it yourself. What do you want to lecture us about tonight?
First of all, allow me to greet your, devoted, followers
Yes.
who certainly have reason to be devoted to you because only good things come out of your show. I wish that, the televisions in Africa, instead of showing Indian movies and cowboy bandits movies and mafia movies and all kinds of nonsense, wasting our dollars, our money, and then going to get beg for money to borrow, to share to put on our TV station garbage. I wish that they were like your show where it's about education, because and I want to greet you. I want to thank you for having me on your show again. It's really an honor always to be here and chat with you. You always know how to ask the right question to tickle somebody's brain, and that's wonderful. So, in fact, the topic that I thought would be interesting to talk about today is that being from Senegal myself, I've been in America for almost 40 years. I've never accepted to take the American citizenship because um, I cannot pledge allegiance to two countries, based on my own belief. Some people can, that's no problem with me. But uh, Senegal, my country, is on fire today because of the making of neocolonialism. You know, what is happening in Mali, what is happening in Niger, what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening in the Central African Republic, what is happening in Guinea has really scared the French imperialists to the point where they will do anything to keep Senegal from actually being a level of legitimization through a democratic process of the revolution against neocolonialism. You know, because in all those countries that you see, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, the Central African Republic and Guinea, the youth, the legitimacy of the coup d'etat, at least we see in the TV, come from the fact that the youth is really fed up with neocolonialism. So what we wanted to talk today is about West Africa on fire and Senegal on fire. Because if Senegalese democracy is on fire, it really means that the democracy in many African former French colonies is in danger, in a way. So the other thing that is also Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have decided, because they are sick and tired of the embargo against them, they have decided to leave the ECOWAS. And you know, these are issues I think that really need to be talked about, and kind of like, for people to have a better grasp of what is going on really. Yes.
It's okay. Thank you. I mean, it's just but simple. There was a question posted raised on on some of our platforms, and most of the youth in West Africa and also in Africa in particular were saying some of these bodies have to automatically collapse, and to be able now to give way to one body that is going to actually be the body that will be responsible for the one Africa. Like in the case of like ECOWAS, most youth will say it's unnecessary. What are we even keeping all these blocks for? If the blocks could even collapse to finally, sink way to give way to one block that will be the one United Africa for its people worldwide. What do you think about that? Is that exactly the point you're saying, or you're still saying individual countries, could get their freedom and the impact of that?
Well, I mean, I don't believe that individual countries could really enjoy their sovereignty as individual countries. You see, we are no longer in the 16th, 17th, or 18th century where, the geopolitics, you know, did not require, you know, big ensemble, big, strong, you know. And the other thing is that also we uh, have not been able to participate in the loitering, from robbing people, you know, through colonialism, through other ways, to accumulate wealth in order to be able to compete at today's world. See, this is why these countries really are not viable entities, because competition is from it's not like competition is from a geopolitical, geoeconomical, world stage, you know meaning like being able to have your money accepted by others, being able to have a certain level of rating that can allow you to have a market and all. But we don't have that. So what I'm saying is that what is going on in West Africa, especially in Africa in general, is that the youth, because of what they call demographic dividend, you know, has come to realize that these states cannot satisfy their needs. They are they cannot, you know, and many of them linked their non their incapacity to satisfy their need to French colonialism, French neo-colonialism, because of the teaching of people like Modibo Keïto, like Cheikh Anta Diop, like, others, they have come to realize that. So they are restless. They are really restless against French neo-colonialism. Now, what is exactly dangerous about the period that we are in is that, you see, because this is what we call a revolutionary period where the masses are ready for a systemic change, which is from neo-colonialism to sovereignty. You know, many people who have interests, objective that are not necessarily the best for the people, could ride that tide of anger and get to power. And that is a dangerous thing, because that will make people feel like changes have come when in fact change has not come at all. It's really, it's just a change it's like a different painting of the same thing, in a way, So for the ECOWAS, you see, the ECOWAS is not all bad, huh? But it is not really what could help our countries, you know, get to a unity that could make them viable. Because ECOWAS is an intergovernmental, mostly, organization which cannot sustain a money, which cannot sustain a diplomacy, which cannot sustain financial policies, which cannot sustain anything really. It's just a cooperation. What is good about it is that it allow Africans in that area to be able to travel, without, of course, depending on what border you are crossing. You know, you don't need a visa. For example, technically to go from Senegal to all the way to Nigeria, you don't need that. And vice versa. So that makes it easier for people to travel in a way and do things and stuff. But it is kind of like sort of a half, not even one third of what the people in West Africa need, which is indeed an entity that could guarantee them more opportunities, where you could really industrialize, where you could have a currency that could be accepted in the rest of the world, and so on and so forth, because of the type of union it is. It is just an intergovernmental sort of kind of union, you know. And the thing also what arrived is that the ECOWAS has really, to me, is in contradiction with itself, because it is not the problem of the ECOWAS how the Malians change, the person at the top of their state. It is not, because this is a non-interference organization technically. So it did not, it should not, whether it is a coup d'etat or an election, that's not the problem of the ECOWAS. It shouldn't be. But because these coup d'etat are riding on the anti-colonial, anti-neo-colonial sentiment of the people, France has convinced countries, president like Macky Sall, like Ouattara, and even some others, that to sanction them, you know, to sanction them, when it's fact it is not really the role of the ECOWAS, to demand, how domestic policies are handled, how power is changed from one hand to the other. That's not their problem. The most that they could refer to is the right to protect by the UN, where, like, if there is a government that is really oppressing its people, like what happened in Uganda, in Rwanda, if there is a sign for, and even them, they are not doing that now with Sudan, because the massacre that is happening, the UN is not. So the only excuse that they could have was the right to protect. And the people in Mali, the people in Niger, the people in Burkina Faso are in no danger, because they are approving of this military coup. At least some of them are. And no one is being killed because of this coup d'etat happening. It's not violent coup d'etat at all. None of them have been. So they don't have any reason to be there, number one. Number two, leave alone sanctioning them. On what basis? There is no charter in the ECOWAS that say if you do this, you're going to be sanctioned. There's none. So it is just the wimp of this head of state, the wimp France, that has pushed this into making a big mistake. First of all, declaring war on them, saying that we're going to come there with Tinubu, who didn't know what he's talking about, not realizing that the majority of, actually, the most numerous national group in Nigeria is indeed the same one in Niger, that if you go to war against them, you're going to be, losing your power. Until he realized that, and his Senate blocked him, that he stopped. But there is no basis now. They are put themselves in a corner, and have forced Mali and Niger to really have no other option but to try to free themselves from that institution, because there is no reason for them to be there if they are not accepted. But at the same time, to me, I feel that there is still a decision like that, to me, cannot be taken by the heads of state or by the government. The people need to be involved in that, making that decision, in order to tell them, look, this is what is going on with the ECOWAS. We are a member of, you benefit in a way from the ECOWAS. What do you think? Maybe organize a referendum or a national consultation or a dialogue, something like that, in order to come to a conclusion that we're leaving. But that's, to me, it's there need to be negotiations, and and all of that stuff in order to keep this entity, which is not what we're looking for really, but at least is serving to something, at least to keep it alive.
Good. So, Professor, when you say Senegal particularly is on fire,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to understand that? Of course, the issue with ECOWAS, we know these are things that will be coming up, just like King Maponga mentioned. Like these are even organizations that even their own people don't even know what is happening, what are they doing apart from say free movement. And of course in Africa we knew we're always with free movement. Honestly, it is even now that we begin to talk about these things that Africans are like, oh wait a minute, so if I had to travel to this place, there will be a border crisis because the normal person on the ground just know we are one people, and they
Absolutely.
never were even thinking about something like that. So, what actually do you mean, or what do you want us to understand? I mean, I'm
You see,
sorry.
Senegal, Senegal has been, even before independence, it has been a country where political transition, like elections happen, and one leader who is there, transmit power to the new leader who is elected. And this is from Blaise Diagne, to Ngalandou Diouf, to Lamine Gueye, to Senghor. Lamine Gueye was in power when Senghor defeated him, and he transferred power to him. And this was we were not independent yet, you know. Abdou Diouf in 2000 lost power to Abdoulaye Wade, and he transferred the power. You know, Abdoulaye Wade lost power to Macky Sall, you know, who accepted to lose and who was the president, who was a candidate also, but he accepted the defeat and handed the power to Macky Sall. Macky Sall right now know that his party is a minority. He's going to be defeated in election if he goes to election. But they have created such a mess with a lot of embezzlement of funds among themselves. And they have unlawfully unleashed the police on people who have shot people with real guns. You know, they are so afraid of the crimes that they have committed in Senegal the last 12 years that they are afraid to leave power. So Macky Sall decided that there will not be an election unless he is ready, unless there is a dialogue, unless there is an amnesty for anyone who have done something wrong in the past 12 years or in the past something years. Okay. So the elections normally, you see, in the power of the president. Okay, the president can issue a decree, can issue decrees in order, let's say, a decree to nominate Susan Tata, the foreign relation secretary, for example. He has the power to do a decree to nominate people at different positions. Those are, the power of the president, is almost kind of limitless in there. But there are decrees that are instruction of the constitution to write at a certain time and to label it in a certain way, which means that the election date is 45 days or 60 days before the election. You need to issue a decree saying that this election are going to be on this day. Okay, of the week. So Macky Sall issued that decree, but seeing that the opposition, main opposition party, which is an anti-neocolonialist party, is gaining momentum, and friends seeing that, they decided 3 days before the campaign start to stop the process. They said, no, there is not going to be elections anymore. When the Constitutional Council had already selected the candidates, agree on the candidate, done everything, Macky Sall decided, no, there will not be elections, under the bogus and fallacious, idea, that there is, a party that has accused one of the Constitutional Council judge, or two of them, in corruption. If you accuse somebody of corruption, maybe take them to court. That's what you have to do. But
Make
that
sure.
doesn't have to do with the institution itself, you know. because but he was looking for an opportunity to cancel the election. So he in cahoot his party and in cahoot with the party of Abdullah Wade, the former president, the son of the president who have they have no idea what's going on in Senegal. He's in Qatar, you know. They decided they pass a law, you know, to extend the mandate of the president until December 5th, until next year in March, when in fact the constitution in Senegal says 5 years you cannot do more than 1 minute after you've spent 5 years in your mandate, you know. So when they passed that law and he reissued a decree canceling the first decree, which was an illegal action, and the law
Mhm.
was anti-constitutional because it violated the duration of the president in power. The Constitutional Council came back and told him, look, you cannot do that. That is anti-constitutional.
Mhm.
That is wrong. You can't do that. So your decree we cancel. That law we cancel.
I'm laughing
Now
because
the Constitutional Council told him, look, you need to organize election as soon as possible.
okay.
We leave you with our, gallantry. We leave you the choice to select the date. But we want you to select a date, but know that you cannot stay beyond April 2nd in the presidential palace as president of Senegal.
Mhm.
So now he went on television yesterday saying, yeah, before I set a date, I want a national dialogue. No, we don't need a national dialogue. Senegalese people don't need a national dialogue. They need, yes, since you made a mess already, we accept that, but call the candidates who are accepted, and call the institutions that are in charge of organizing them, have a discussion with them and set a new date and get the process going. At least recognize your mea culpa. But
And
Macky Sall,
Professor,
Macky
sorry, I'm
Sall
sorry.
is,
Just hold it there, Professor, because it's getting really interesting, and I see any
and
spark.
he's gangster. Like I saw someone say, he's a real gangster, but a bad gangster. That's the problem with him.
I don't know if there's a good gangster in any case, but
But I'm sorry, no, a non-intelligent one. Let me say. See, Al Capone was a very intelligent gangster, and they could not get him until the things of taxes. But Macky Sall, it's so evident what he's doing. His plans, as soon as he has something, he opens his mouth. If people understand exactly what he wants to do, what is behind it. There's no finesse in it, you know.
but everything sounds like somebody is trying to prolong his term of office when he's not supposed to do that. What is the opposition like
The
right now?
opposition is very strong, okay? But like I said, the leading party in the opposition is anti-neocolonialist, and that's the headache of France. That's the main problem here, because the leading party in the opposition, which is actually suspected that it really has a good chance to win the election, has clearly said that we're going to find a way to get out of the CFA, get at least end the CFA reign in Africa, and that is a nightmare for France. Because if the CFA is no longer there, the French contribution to the euro will become almost negative, and that will cause serious problems for France. The other thing is that this is a group of young people, intellectual, really sharp intellectuals, who have decided, look, our country, it's time for us now to step in. Just like during the time of John Kennedy, when the American youth, decided to step in and take power from Eisenhower, the old man, you know, and his successor, Richard Nixon, or at least wanted to be his successor. That's where the situation in Senegal is. And that is worrisome, for the conservatives. That is worrisome for the imperialists. That is worrisome for people who have embezzled, enriched themselves shamelessly on the back of the poor Senegalese people. because they want transparency in the management of the resources of our country, you know, and they are really serious about doing that.
So I'm still looking for the flame.
Well,
What is it that
the flame here is that Macky Sall is behaving. He is behaving in a way that is completely contradictory to the Senegalese way of doing business in politics.
ah
We have
that
never had a president. The masses, the people are angry. It's fire coming out of their mouth, you know, because they are so angry, so disappointed by the reckless behavior of Macky Sall that you could just sense that, the heat is there, because the Senegalese democracy has grown in a certain way. You see, Macky Sall, we have been evolving toward a democracy since a long time. Macky Sall want to overturn all that and transform Senegal into a banana republic.
oh
And that is
okay.
what is actually really putting fire in the heart, in the minds of people in Senegal. Since he actually canceled the election, four young men, three of them, two of them from the number one university in Senegal, two of them, brilliant students, have been killed by police. Two other young men, one from high school, another one, a worker, have been killed by the police of Macky Sall. So he has put fire in the normally peaceful, because at this time, yes, in the election in Senegal, people used to make all kind of speech, fire language and all of that, but never like did we have really people who are in there. And the problem also is that Macky Sall, you see, in Senegal, we are not used to political prisoners, maybe one or two, okay? But there are more than 2,000 people who are political prisoners in Senegal today. Many of them were not even members of a party. They were just walking around when there was a rally somewhere in the area. The police came, brutalized them, and then put them in prison. There's a young man that I watched the interview the other day. He was for 7 months in prison, and he didn't do anything, nothing. He was just coming back from work. And Hard was unlucky enough that the time that he was coming back to work was when the time the rally was happening at about a half a mile away from him. Police, eager to satisfy our new dictator, went and took him. And there are hundreds of young people who are like that in prison. Not even politically associated, but because, the fear of a radical change in Senegal, and also of accountability after his management of Senegal. That fear has made Macky Sall transform Senegal into really a state of, I wouldn't call it a police state, but it's a state under dictatorship. He's a dictator.
Way forward.
The way forward is for Macky Sall to call for an election, set the
Okay.
date for an election, let the Senegalese people choose who is going to be their next president. If he did that, then there will be no problem. But you see, Susan, Dr. Susan, one thing is that Macky Sall was counting on when he canceled the election. He thought that everyone is going to go on the street. People are going to start burning things and all of that. So
Oh
he
no,
could
we're not
declare,
doing that anymore.
no, that's what he hoped for. So he could declare a state of emergency and say, okay, that's it now. I am canceling the election altogether. There's no more election until peace, and then until peace comes back. Peace coming back is only left to his discretion to appreciate, So next year or 2 years or so, and that's what he wanted. But as soon as he canceled the election, the opposition, which is very mature, said to people, no violence. No violence rally. The only one who is doing violence is the government itself. When you start walking or rallying, which is constitutionally allowed in Senegal, they put violence in you. They actually attacked a journalist, a woman journalist, who ended up, you know, really suing the police of Senegal. She was just reporting, just like you. Find yourself on the street, you want to inform people about what's happening. The police, you know, hit her. I mean, she was actually in the coma. Senegal, we're not used to something like that. That's fire, really bad fire. I mean, it's sad to see because Senegal was kind of sort of in a way an inspiration for other countries in terms of that democracy in a way, you know, can can some sort of kind of work, you know, even though it is not really, if we go in the deep, it's not going to be democracy, but there is at least some sort of way of function. There is functionality, level of functionality that our countries have. But with Macky Sall's behavior, his ignorance, really, it has become really, really, you know, uh, people can. I mean, it's like it's not far from, you know, being under the Idi Amin, or under Mobutu. Very close to it, very, very close to it. The only difference is that the Senegalese people are refusing, and Macky Sall has only a certain level of leverage. But every single thing that he could do to intimidate people, he is doing. Every single inch that the Senegalese are giving him, he's asking for a meter. But the Senegalese people are resisting this.
Professor, do we have a Traore, an Ibrahim in Senegal?
You see, Senegal is a different in a way. See, the military in Senegal will not. We don't want them to intervene in a way, you know, because that will be a setback in our political development. We want them to stay where they are, and let us civilians fight it over. Macky Sall to himself by himself cannot resist us.
I don't see him
We
doing
are,
that anyway because,
you
like you
know,
said, in
you
political
know,
history of Senegal, it
mhm.
hasn't been in that kind of. We've never really experienced that kind
No,
of violence
no,
in Senegal.
no,
That's
no.
why I was just thinking when you said Senegal is on fire, I'm like, what? I mean, I never heard that in my life. I mean, of course, we do know that 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 influence of the French and that mentality of revolution, but Senegal has always been on. I don't really know how we can even position them.
Well,
Like,
there's a question up here from a Sandra.
yes,
Sir, is it violence when the people knock, is it violence? Yes, it is violence. The reality is that in a republic that you call republic, democratic republic, the use of violence is only in the hands of the government, of the power of the state, whatever you want to call it. One of the things that make a republic is that we surrender our power, our right to exert violence on others. We surrender it to the state. Okay, and we use the ballot, in order to change people who lead the country. Now there are situations in countries where, if, for example, today Macky Sall wanted to stay in power beyond April 2nd, like violating the constitution of Senegal, I think that people marching in the palace and getting him out of there might be considered a violent act, but it will be legitimate.
okay. You have reflections coming out there. You have impressions coming out there because we're rounding this conversation with you in 5 minutes. And so I think people are already reacting. You can see the reactions and questions are coming.
Absolutely.
And like,
Abs-
what is it that Africans should know now? What the situation, like you say, we're demanding for that call. Do you think there's going to be anyhow any resistance to that, or from what you know Senegal to be according to its political history that is going to actually comply?
Well, we don't know, because Macky Sall has become like George the Third, the king, the British king who was crazy, who has gotten mad, crazy, cuckoo. Macky Sall has become really, I don't think that his head is functioning, and no one knows exactly what he will adventure himself to do. But he knows also what he, the Senegalese people, will not allow him. So I have, the good feeling that, there are two things that Macky Sall could do, okay? He could stay in power until April 2nd and resign. I think that that's what he's aiming at. Resign from power, and the parliament today is, his pet dog. The president of the parliament is Macky Sall's pet dog. So if he resigned, the constitution of Senegal says that the president of the parliament become the president and has up to 90 days to organize new elections. So what Macky Sall is intending to do probably is to wait until, April 2nd to resign and leave his new parliament person, head of the parliament to become the president. Now, this is the thing here. My son is the candidate of the main opposition party in Senegal. Okay? Bassirou Joomaay FAYE. Okay? And he is in prison right now as we speak. And do you know what he said? Why he is in prison? He is in prison because he wrote on Facebook that in Senegal there are some judges. They are a real tiny minority of them who are corrupt. And they told him, now you're destabilizing Senegal by saying that. Since April the 14th, he is in prison. He's not even judged. But unfortunately for them, since he is not judged, his leader, Usman Sonko, he was judged for fallacious reason. He was accused of raping a woman. When they went to trial, and then they realized the rape issue here is not going to work. They said, if you cannot get him the day before the judgment, the deliberation of the judge, the prosecutor said to him, if you cannot really get him in rape, just get him that you are hijacking the mentality of the youth in general. How could you be accused of something your lawyers didn't even know to defend themselves for? So that's that base that he is. So they condemned him, so he cannot be a candidate. So my son is the candidate now, But my son was not judged, so there is nothing that kept him from being a candidate. So now he is the candidate of the main opposition party. But what they want is to postpone the election to get the time to judge him, to keep him from being a candidate, because his candidacy is getting really a huge momentum in Senegal.
Wonderful. So, I mean, as a matter of fact, we're talking to the father of the next president of Senegal. That's how it all is sounding now.
Well, let me just clarify. I'm not his biological father,
It doesn't matter. It
but
doesn't
in
matter.
African culture, he is my older brother. He is my son's older brother. He was named after me. So it's my son in African culture. That's why.
Even if
But
he
he is
was,
my son.
even if he wasn't related, your son is your son. Like me, the entire continent call me mother. I don't know. I
But
don't
this
know.
is, but we have a biological connection. Not that I'm his direct father, but I'm his
Exactly.
father's younger brother.
Exactly. No, at a certain point, we are about talking, we are about taking that responsibility. I think we'll have to go even beyond our biological, bloodline or something for the elders to take responsibility. Because when we
Absolutely,
look at our children and call them our children, it means
absolutely.
we will be pointing a finger, like you heard, I think Mr. Kwame saying, we are not like our parents. We would take it. So I think it is very okay. I don't think I birthed 1.4 or how many even in my age mate, but they call me mother, and I think it's a whole lot of responsibility that
Absolutely.
it's way upon me. I cannot say, oh no, they're not my, I cannot burn them. So I think what we're actually saying is, I mean, you being in the political landscape and seeing the situation on the ground, haven't been in the diaspora. The question came up from Marshall. Do you think that the influence of the French could be backing up his being in power because of obvious reasons, as we know? Do you
Oh
think
yes, yes, friends.
you have
The
the right?
first thing, the first thing that Macky Sall did when he was elected in 2012, he immediately went to France. The president before him had closed the French military bases in Senegal.
Mm,
He immediately the next day he restored his French military base. He is a puppet of France. The France. He and Ouattara are really the big game for France in Africa. You know. And this guy that he selected as a candidate, the France Africa, there is no, it's not a unanimous group. Like the imperialists who are, in French imperialists who are, sucking the blood of Africa. We call them France Afrique. You know, they are not a uniform group. So the candidate that Macky Sall selected to replace him is belong to a different set of France of imperialists in France. So he went to France to pledge allegiance to them. Since his side of French imperialists have a problem with the other side, he badmouthed Macky Sall. So now Macky Sall doesn't even want him to be candidate anymore. And
yeah,
they accuse him of being the one who is embezzling, who is like corrupting judges, for the election and process. Your own candidate you selected, you know, you're accusing him of corrupting judges of the constitutional court in Senegal, the highest, you know. So you see, his head is messed up to a point where it's really difficult to understand completely. But it's his ego. Macky Sall has the size of an ego that is bigger than the Milky Way, you know. And as Otto Bismarck used to say, you know, the productivity, the worth of a person is his capacity divided by his ego. Macky Sall has capacity, but his ego is so huge that that ego, carried to almost next to zero, you know. And that's his problem. No one, he has no advisor, no one, none. And he think of, with his little head, he think of things and think that that's it, voila, I got it now. And now, when in fact it's excuse my language, it's not a smart plan at all. And it's easy to find the holes in it, you know. And that is what is one of the most, unfortunate thing. When you are there, Susan, thinking that you are smarter than everybody else, only fools could think like that.
of course, we know. I mean, there's nobody that has that monopoly of having the knowledge of everything. So thank you very
No.
much, Professor Joomaay. It was very important because at least we have an overview, and so if we hear anything that is going on in Senegal, we know. Because most often it's like we actually don't get the information beforehand, and then later on after the elections, we see all this riot and we begin to wonder. But you see, there's already always something boiling in the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not paying attention, and we're not having information, we're not having
Abs-
education about it.
absolutely.
And now we're putting our eyes on Senegal.
Absolutely.
You right out there begin to
Absolutely.
know that we're putting our eyes on
Mm-hmm.
Sal. His
Absolutely.
Excellency.
I think that we are Pan Africans, Dr. Tata, is
Yes.
that we Pan Africans need to know what is going on in each one of our countries. Because the plans of the imperialists are not implemented on a global level, they are implemented in a country by country level.
But you see the same thing. It's the same footprint.
Yeah.
Call it
But
what or call it what here is the
yeah,
same.
but the,
Okay.
the unfurling of their plans are on a daily, especially in elections, especially in some moments of high political things, that we need to really watch what's going on in these countries in a way, you know, because, you know, uh, the work of imperialism, you know, the work of neocolonial, let me just put it that way, neocolonialism is the utilization of the weakness of these countries, is founded on the utilization of the weakness of these countries and the mingling into their political life, you know. And that, it's really important for us to understand what's going on in Guinea-Bissau, which is a dictator also there. You know, the PAIG say won the election and he canceled the parliament, just like because two of the ministers are accused of embezzling funds, and he just get up, well, I canceled the parliament, just like that. You know, I mean, like, just, a lot of things that are going on that we have to take into account, in understanding in our country.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Doctor.
Good. So we'll be looking up to another lecture. I'm sorry, to another lecture with you sometime soon, when the elections are closing, or if we are going to have, I mean, like the topic with the federal movement, we'll reach out to you. And I want to thank
Absolutely.
you for being an honorable guest. And I saw the way you struggled,
Thank
to
you.
connect to this conversation. Thank you so very much. Do you want to
Thank you.
wish your audience a good night or what?
Of course, I do. I want to thank everybody who really had the patience to listen to me. My
Mhm.
English sometimes is not the best English. I hope that you understood everything that I said.
I
You
hope
know,
you would have been speaking Wolof. If you were speaking Mandinka or Mandinka, we're
it
still going
always
to
a ple-
understand you.
it always a pleasure to be here. Please, you know, watch what's going on in West Africa with the ECOWAS.
Hmm.
Watch what's going on in Senegal with our new mad dog dictator Macky Sall. You know, please, look for the information. And if you could support the people in West Africa. And today, Susan, I wanted to just inform the members of the listeners,
Hmm.
the Pan-African Federalist Movement lost its president.
Oh.
Adama Samaseku, a former Minister of Education for Alpha Omar Konare, one of the founders of the Academy of African Languages, he is the founder actually of the Academy of African Languages,
Hmm.
passed away today at 7 a.m. GMT
Oh.
in the Clinic Pasteur in Bamako. Adama is an irreplaceable person for the Pan African Federal Movement. He was just an incredible person, very generous with his time, committed to Pan Africanism, committed to African culture, incredibly smart, really fantastic person. We lost him today. I woke up with a message from Bamako telling me that my brother Joomaay, we lost our big brother, our friend, our comrade, our leader, Adama Samaseko. I thought it was a prank, somebody playing a prank on me. I had to call the person and a couple of other persons to verify in order to be able to know that this is true. So today I'm really grieving. I'm grieving the loss of this brother. As you know, we lost also Baba Jiwe, who
Yes,
came to
yes,
your
I
show
already spoke.
also.
Yes, I know
Yeah.
that. Mhm.
We've lost these two people who were really, if you wanna say it, it's really the guarantors of the credibility of our movement.
Mm.
Powerful guarantors of our credibility of our movement. Completely generous of what they have, their time, their resources, and everything. It felt like with the fight for the independence of Guinea-Bissau of Mozambique, when Samora Machel plane was down for us,
Mm.
or when Steve Biko died. Nadama is a martyr of the Pan-African struggle. He is a martyr because he died almost from exhaustion. So involved he was in the struggles for African liberation. So I wanted to just, share with you that it's a very sad news for us in the Pan-African Federalist movement and in the Pan-African movement in the linguistic movement in Africa.
Absolutely. Our
Thank you.
condolences, Baba Jume. Our
Yeah.
condolences to all the Pan-Africanists worldwide. This is a big loss, and
Please.
I don't know how it actually escaped our mind or even in the beginning, but we do extend our condolences to you,
Thank you.
particularly being on that board. And I think I don't know how I can say his fight and last fight. I mean, now we're celebrating the life of a hero who's joined his ancestors and has led a real battle. The challenge
Absolutely.
is on us, what we're doing with our lives when we would retire. What are they going to
Absolutely.
say about us? So I
Absolutely.
think 27 gun salute, as we
Thank
say.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you.
Thank you very
It was
much.
a pleasure being here.
Thank you
And once
too.
again, thank you to your listeners and thank you to you
Thank you.
for everything.
Thank you, Baba Jume.
Okay, forward.
Good night and peace to you.
Peace.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Good night. All right. Thank you, people. It's been a wonderful conversations today, but we have one last topic that I would like to share with you. It's most of you have seen the flyer when I posted and I said Bamenda on fire. You know, the people of my people, my people, they got up last night in flames, right? Like the main market of Bamenda was in flames. I mean, the images are so horrible that I can't even show it here. It's such a shock. It's such a loss. Right now, we don't know whether lives were affected, but we do know that there's a lot in, small women, sisters, brothers that are hustling, and their shops all burned down to ashes. And I mean, I think they're still fighting to put that out right now. So it's been a day, it's been a night that we woke up to this to this misery or to this challenge. But you see, and so a lot of things are happening. They're happening in different formats, just coming up. I just refuse to look at these challenges as something that is actually happening to us. I want you to get my statement very, very clear. I refuse to acknowledge these challenges as something that is happening to us. I look at the challenges as something that is happening for us. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us. It means it's not happening to us, it's happening to our advantage. Of course, people will be like, are you crazy, Dr. Tata? People just lost properties and maybe lives lost. And you're here talking about something that is possible. You know, we are in a metamorphosis, we like it or not. We have to peel off. And I can guarantee you, most of these countries that are going through the hardest challenge are the ones that will rise up so fast in their cleverness, and they'll water their, like it was shocking when most of us begin to say, oh, Africa needs a military, they need their own military. As I can tell you, my people in Bamenda, the children that are babies, they know the sound of a gun. Most of you that are watching me, you know the language that I'm using right now. A child that is born in a war zone, that has gone through that kind of, and you begin to assess that child mentally. What is the life of that child? What are the memories that he will forever live with and pass it on to the next generation? So it is beyond speaking. But like I said, from the spiritual aspect of these things, these are nations that the world will look up to. So on Sunday, we want to really get voices from Bamenda and listen to them. It's been a while that we haven't touched base with them. Sometimes we just leave them lie. It's not because we forgot about them. Me, particularly, like a daughter of Bamenda, I'm a Bamenda girl. I tell you people all the time. Even though we sit here to solve African problems and the continental problems, of course, we do know that We have to start from our individual houses. And the way my spirit and the things I begin to see now, it's like we would really have to go back into our individual houses and make sure that things are in order, or even just remind ourselves of this, because it is very pertinent what I'm saying. Most often we globalize. And I think for us, we would come to the point of getting that one Africa when our individual houses are. And so it's time for people to begin to answer their father's names or their mother's names. What am I simply saying? It is time that we'll have to all, get back into our shelves and begin to look at changes in our own houses. It is also a huge challenge to know that as a daughter of Bamenda, a Bamenda girl, and I'm also the mother of the continent. It's a huge responsibility, but at some point you're already so used to it, and I see the challenges on the continent are becoming so small. I don't feel any pressure again. If we can sit and talk to Maponga and he's gone through the ice, the needle, and navigated the system to see things that we speak sometimes, until you get the experience, you will not understand. So it is hard. It's really, really hard. I can know, and it's particularly hard for those that are not awakened, for people that are still thinking the world is a better place, for the children that are still light upon every day and giving fake hope to them. And that we, the parents, make the world a better place. Oh, and that we promise them all the beauties, how they're going to be protected and safe. But it's unfortunate when just one person falls down. We are unable. We just unable. We just like helpless. I want us to feel this emptiness in us, that you could actually be talking to somebody right now, and that person is in a situation where you cannot even help. That's how desperate humanity has been separated. Africans has been dislocated. We can talk about border posts, passports, and whatever. But if you just come to imagine that even your closest friend, your best of best, could be in a situation where you are not able to help. But you've been sharing, we've been connecting, we've been networking, we've been talking about solutions. But then there's something that makes us so powerless. And I think when we get this really clear, we'll begin to know how we mend our relationships, regardless of political, arrangements or whatever. When we start from the roots to just understand the simple basic things around us in our community and be conscious of them, to just understand that the whole market could be set on fire, and because we were not even thinking that something will happen like that, because we're just so in the mentality like everything is just so beautiful, and you wake up and you're caught up in this dilemma, in this drama, you don't even know where to start. So you see, this is heartbroken. The women, and 80% of our market space is always the women. And it brings us to the narrative of who owns the economy of the continent of Africa and even the world. Not Africa particularly the rural economies. The market women. If anything will happen in the market, 80% would be the women. And so these women that get small jangi money, pocket money, and put us small stalls and to sell vegetable, they take from farm to market. And you can imagine, to sustain their lives, send their children to schools, being able to be responsible and just live a simple life. Go to the farm in the morning, come back in the evening, feed your children, and just go to bed and hope to go to the market, and it's all ablaze. helpless. Like we're sitting here, like I look at myself, I'm helpless. You can't do anything. But I think we can share solidarity. We can put a spotlight, just like we did for Haiti, just like we're doing in other countries, to say, we understand and we're seeing you and we're with you and we trust everything is okay. A lot of us will pass on in various ways that we cannot explain when our time is up. I just hope there were no casualties. But on Sunday, like I say, yes, we are. We are not hopeless. We are helpless. We're helpless. So I want to thank all of you for being our audience tonight. And I just want to bring some small um, news from the Pan African Daily TV. I mean, the young executive of the Pan African Daily actually met yesterday. They met yesterday and they're putting up a structure, a very small structure. I don't want all those big kind of things. They can start from baby steps. But it was a very fruitful meeting. And we're going to start seeing those results. And when the agenda and the programs will be coming up live on Pan African Daily. So, but the main thing that they're going to be doing is a lot of research, bringing back the stories to their peers. And so, whatever thing we'll be doing here in the big format, they will break it down to their peers and to their counterparts and to their age groups so they can begin to relate. And for all this while, we've never had that. We've never had that kind of, a session where the youth, the senior, and the elders. It's just been a kind of a mix, like we don't even know. And that's why, things like hierarchy, respect, and order, rule, the balance in our African spirituality of Ma'at doesn't really work when we don't even know the positioning and the structures that we all do belong to. So, but in any case, that's what is going on with my people in Bamenda. And I think it's not even also just in Bamenda, it's happening everywhere. But that's the breaking news that is just happening in my village. And I talked to my mom today and she was like, maybe one day you just sit and hear that we died in the house of fire and stuff like that. It's like, yeah. It's hard. It's a reality of a people that have been going through all that. But we'll start a series called The Bamenda Girl. And like I said, it's time that we'll start answering our names, who we are, from the origins that we are, and then trying to put our little patches of our communities, our families together to be able to build a one collective. And yeah, thank you very much, Agnes. You saying it's really sad to hear that. Yes, it is. It is really sad. And the loss of property, I don't think that's really, but when lives are involved, it becomes something that we must always share solidarity. So I'm inviting you on Sunday. Tomorrow we're not going to stream. Tomorrow is going to be a day off on Pan African Daily. And yeah, going to be going somewhere with the boys. They're already itchy. And Sunday is going to be, normally Sunday we'll have Professor James Small. And then we'll also have the situation in Bamenda. Like I said, I will never tell you where Bamenda is. Bamenda is a village on the continent of Africa. You can check it out yourself. But if you talk about Dr. Tata, she's a Bamenda girl. So that's my origin. That's my people we're talking about here. My ancestors. Right. And so, yeah, good. We have 7 minutes to go. I want to give a feedback on what actually transpired. Sandra is right here. We want to thank them for sharing their stories with us. We did not forget you. And I also thank you for including us into that group. It would be necessary that many people would like to join that movement of yours. This movement is about African women in the diaspora that are actually going through what they call a psychological trauma because their children are whipped up from them. They just take their babies for whatever reason and then label them sick in their heads and like they call it stealing their babies and they don't even really know what is happening. If you are that kind of a woman out there or the men, because it's not only a situation of the women, even the fathers that are concerned is of is also an issue, please reach out to Pan African Daily, and we're going to, share your pain, your story. But of course, we'll get you engaged in this new movement that our sisters are creating out here to be able to speak out. It's very important. So sometimes we speak about the good, the bad, ugly, everything, but it's really necessary that we listen to one another, and to get these powerful women come on the show, talk about the things that they're really going to. A lot of people don't even trust themselves again, because most African things, we are so busy. Everyone is so busy. We've been intoxicated with the separation in the diaspora, that everybody's like, oh, that's your business. That's your business. Oh, I don't want to worry you. No, I think I'll bother you with your call. I think you were sleeping. And I don't, no, 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 no. 12:12, set your alarm clock ringing at 12:12. Okay. And the Pan African Daily is reachable in case of any emergencies anytime. Leave a voice. You have our contact, you have our emails. If there's an SOS or anything that we need to know, we need to stay connected. Okay. And consequently, we'll be getting our drums together to drum at every time anything happens, because sometimes we don't really know what is going to come in next. Whether someday we just wake up, all the lights are quenched because Africa is not paying its bills, or the West even, and nobody's selling anything to anybody. How did we live in the village with those, without these things? That's what we should be thinking about. So I want to thank you very much. Yes. Good evening, Dr. Tata, watching you from Italy. Please, is your Bamenda in Cameroon, right? Because I got a friend from my side. So sorry about that. Yes, of course. Like I said, Google is in Cameroon. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you for the messages. We've been having a lot of them. We've been having calls. Ah, I'm hot. I'm hot. Thank you, thank you, thank you too. I guess I should be going. I should be retiring. I'm okay. I'm fine. Just need to drink more water, more water. Yeah, so we're going to be having Professor James say to sexy. What is that? NS Parker. What do you mean? I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm very okay. It's just I'll just choke up from those emotions and stuff like that. I'm very okay. I always have my water. You see here? And this is what I drink 3 times, 3 of this a day. And so we make sure the more we drink water and just mind our African business. Okay. Thank you very much, Mami Wata. You say, Bamenda, we're in solidarity with you. We're gonna have that solidarity wake-up call on Sunday. And we'll be posting up the flyers. I think we did something already. I don't know. If you see this on your screens, you're gonna know that that is the program that is coming up. Okay. Like you see, BG is Bamenda Girl, and we're standing up with a fist hand for whatever thing that is happening to our people everywhere on the continent, in the diaspora. Okay. So when you see this flyer anywhere, please just share and invite one another on this series. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. So good. I think we're rounding up. We've come. You need to drink more water. Thank you, Gilo. I'm drinking more. This one is for you. Thank you. Sorry, Queen. Thank you. I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm doing very, very okay. Thank you so very much. Yes. We see ourselves on Sunday. I wish you all a pleasant evening or afternoons, wherever you're watching me from. Whatever the situation is around you, please just make sure you drink a lot of water, you smile a lot, you listen to good music, and just chill. One thing, remember, your ancestors are right there with you. They will never leave you alone. They will always be with you. You see, the more we're going to get into spirituality, who understand all these things, and at some point in time, we'll just know what to do at the right time. So thank you very much. I'll be leaving you. I love you, Dr. Tata. I love you too. Come on. I mean, I love all of us. Thank you. Like, you really, like, she needs it right now. She needs so much love with what is going on. Of course, Bamenda girls. Oh my God. You're gonna see a lot. Bamenda girls are beautiful. They're the best, just like all of us. And we would know the history, we'll learn the history about these great, great people, these warriors, and Bamenda girl is a man too. It's not just a girl. And yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Snovia. Thank you, all of you, for your solidarity. Thank you, Suzanne. You say you're watching from Norway. Solidarity for all, to all of us. Thank you. Yes. Mm, mm. So much love. Thank you, Dave Veteran. Thank you. Have a nice weekend to all of you, and peace and blessings in your very, very so. Make sure you drink a lot of water and just listen to good music. Okay, everything's gonna be okay. We're fine, and we've been taken care of. Okay, so it's exactly 2 hours, and this conversation was just on time. You heard it. We'll still be in touch with King Maponga. We'll be bringing you updates even if we're not coming live because of whatever the situation might be. Just check us on our Facebook pages. We're dropping a lot of content out there on TikTok as well. They're going to be sessions where we'll be going live on TikTok, but it's going to be shared on channel 1 and the other channels as well. So thank you so very much. And yeah, to you too. Good night, beautiful people. And yeah, what else? Enjoy. Bye. Love you all. Bye-bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.